Welcome to Critics Anonymous, the podcast where two knuckleheads who have no business critiquing anything give you their opinions on everything.
For those of you new to the podcast, we take one topic or theme and expand on it over the course of 6 episodes.
We are close to wrapping up our current conversation around the relationship between Batman and the Joker.
Last week, we dove into the various movies and portrayals of the Batman and Joker characters.
This week, we go from silver screen to TV screen and talk about the different television series over the years.
Don't go anywhere. We're sure this will have you missing your Saturday morning cartoons. So do you kind of find yourself like trying to figure out how to start the podcast now?
Without saying super excited.
Yeah, because we made the whole thing last week and it was like super excited. And now I don't know how to start the podcast.
Yeah, we're still moderately thrilled that you all have joined us in this episode.
We're modestly eager still.
Maybe slightly more so. Maybe.
We are talking about the animated series. I mean,
yeah.
I'm excited about that.
I'm definitely excited about that as well. Glad that you guys have decided to join us again on this journey through the bromance between our friend the Batman and his friend the Joker. And
that just makes it sound weird. His best friend. It's like they're hiding something, but they don't want to like tell the world.
Well, I mean, Parker already referred to them as adult picture books. So do what you will with both of those things together. Okay, here we go. We're talking about the series today. All series, both live action and animated. I know you're really excited about the animated series.
Yes.
I am a little more excited about the live action because I'm just weird and...
Which live action, though? We're talking about...
Both.
You like them both?
We'll get into it.
Ooh.
We'll get into it.
This is going to be fun to talk about.
It is.
So I think one of the things that I'm excited about, we'll just dive right into the animated series. I think we should just hop right into it. I am a huge fan of the Batman animated series because honestly, I think for me, the Batman animated series was my first like jump into superhero anything. So the Batman animated series came out in 92, ran from 92 to 95. A bunch of series have kind of come after that. And there was stuff before that too, you know, but for me, I'm really going with this one because this is, I think when I look back, I think they hit all of the marks of Batman that at least I want Batman to be. And I know I wasn't going to say it like too much, but I'm just going to jump right in. It has Mark Hamill as Joker. And I think out of anybody who says Luke Skywalker is Mark Hamill's best performance needs to go and like watch the series.
Yeah.
Because his best performance in anything, I know he's great at Luke Skywalker. That's fine. I don't care. Whatever. The Joker is his best performance by far.
I mean, I know we're not here to dissect Star Wars and Mark Hamill in Star Wars, but was it really his best performance?
No, it wasn't.
So,
it really wasn't. I mean, that's the hard thing. The Joker allowed him to bring something to the character. The hard part with Luke Skywalker is because you follow him through this whole progression from like adolescent, teenager, oh, woe is me, like whatever. I feel like he never really got out of that, you know, even though because he like whatever became a Jedi and yada yada yada.
Always like the outcast black sheep. Like, daddy didn't love me. Mommy died when I was young. Like,
I just don't feel like for Mark Hamill, it gave him enough credit on his acting skill. Albeit that young, I don't think... I think he was still very much developing his acting skill. Mm-hmm. But, I just don't think it was 100% there yet. The Joker truly showcased him being able to capture an element of a character and to some degree... reinvent it and now, as we know, make it iconic. I mean, it really is an iconic character. So I think that's why I'm the most excited about talking about the animated series because it has this like place in my heart that just like is so nostalgic and just, I don't know, everything that I wanted Batman to be. I mean, Kevin Conroy, that voice, you can't go wrong with. That to me, when I think of Batman, is the voice. Yeah. Like, I know this sounds... last week I told you, I was like, oh, Batfleck is like my favorite Batman, you know, right?
He's your bae.
He's my bae, yeah. But the weird thing is like every time I think of like my favorite Batman, it's like Batfleck, but with like Kevin Conroy's voice. Which I don't know why that makes sense, but it's just the way that my brain works. It's like every time I think of Batman not actually seeing him on a screen, it's always Kevin Conroy's voice because I just think it is the voice of Batman. So,
I mean, I guess I get that. I'm still trying to picture Or
I know it's weird. I'm sorry. It's everybody's
'cause
gonna be listening to this and they're gonna be like, that doesn't make any sense at
like
all.
I'm picturing Batfleck's body with
I know.
an animated head. And that's the only way I can in any way picture this. So
Yeah. It's kind of okay. So like, this is totally off subject, but it's kind of along the same lines of like iconic. So Archer, have you seen Archer?
oh yeah.
Okay,
Wait, you're talking
the animated series, the
Okay.
Archer animated series,
Yeah.
right? So the voice is phenomenal. Like you can't change that, right? That is Archer.
That's Archer.
That
Yep.
is who Archer is, right? Well, and Bob Burgers, but like whatever, we won't go there. So like the thing that's funny, have you seen the guy who plays?
H. John Benjamin. Yes, he's also does the Arby's commercial.
Yes. I love him. I
We
think
have the meats
I
for
think-
sandwiches.
yeah. I think he's a great actor. He looks nothing like Archer. And actually, if I were to put it in any category, he looks exactly opposite of anything of what Archer would be. So there was always this like talk about, well, if they're going to do a live action Archer movie, how are they going to do it? Okay, well, everybody looks at, I think is his name John Hamm. He played Mad Men. He was the main
Yeah.
guy in Mad Men, John Hamm. So I agree. I think that's the perfect casting for an Archer character, right?
Yeah, he
Very-
definitely plays that very well.
Very attractive, black hair. He can totally do the slick back thing, total douche and all that stuff, right? But
God, I can see it. That's weird.
they
Okay.
would have to like dub
voiceover.
the voice over, which I don't know if that works. So, anyways, sorry, that's just a totally another example of like iconic voices that I just think always will live in my brain is that voice. I don't care if there's ever a live action of Archer. All the live actions that I've seen of Batman, if I think back on them, I'm still gonna picture, Kevin Conroy's voice because it's
Well, now you bring up a point. I'm actually doing a search right now for Kevin Conroy because now I'm curious to see what he looks like.
he's
I
he's
wanna see-
interesting. He's interesting.
He is, yeah, nope.
Not
He
what you
does-
would think, right?
Nope. He's giving me more of a maybe Riddler-y vibe
Yep.
than a Batman vibe. So yeah, they did well casting George Clooney. Let's just say that instead of Kevin Conroy.
Oh, it's like okay, the chin.
Mine-
I mean that they casted him for the chin. That's what
course.
it was.
Yeah, he doesn't. Well, oddly enough, Kevin Conroy has the chin. I just don't.
He's like really tall and lanky.
Yeah, he's more Alfred than he is Batman.
Also, you hear him talk and you're like, that voice comes out of you like that. It's weird because it just doesn't
Fit.
totally match in
Yeah.
my brain. But
There-
also the voice of Archer, I feel the same exact way
Yeah,
about.
it's like they don't
every
match.
time he talks, I was like, that's way too sexy of a voice for a very less than sexy individual. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's weird. So, anyways, we got totally sidetracked. I apologize.
I think it's still relevant.
It gets my point across that Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill are by far the best Batman and Joker, purely just for their
The
voices.
Yep, I would agree.
The
Because
other-
even me, when I think of, sorry, I just cut you off. So hold that thought. I obviously not the biggest Batman fan, but outside when I think of Batman, actually when I'm thinking of Batman, anything animated, whether it's like a comic or a poster or anything like that, whether it's the Joker or whether it's Batman.
Just totally forgot about the guy that we were talking about for the whole like 6 episode thing that we're doing right now.
Is this live?
Joker and
Where am I?
that guy.
And the guy who wears a black suit and a
he
cape.
wears a cape and flies around. Okay,
Yeah. I mean, whenever I think of whenever I see those are the voices that I hear. Of course, when I think of Batman, though, I do think for me it is the Michael Keaton. That's my
really.
visual of Batman. Where you think of Batfleck, I think of Michael Keaton.
But still with
Kevin Conroy's voice.
yeah. I feel like it would fit Michael Keaton better than it would fit Ben Affleck.
Similar bodies.
Ben
Not similar bodies. Never
Yeah.
mind, I take that back. They do not.
Oh.
Now that I see what Kevin Conroy looks like, not the similar body.
Batfleck was buff Batfleck. He was ridiculously ripped in those movies.
Yeah, steroids
Well,
and CGI.
lots of and big
If
old,
they- if
lots
they
of
can take-
padding in the costume too.
If they can take away a mustache from Superman, they can add muscles to Batman.
Very horribly take away a mustache, can I say? Although I am excited about that new Snyder cut. Side note, okay, Batman trivia. I found out that they're shooting new scenes for the Snyder cut that's
Oh.
coming out.
Interesting. They're not just re-releasing it. That's actually really cool.
Yeah, like they're actually letting him make the movie that he wanted to make, which I think is fantastic. I think it's going to be really good.
We shall see.
Yeah, we'll have to do a follow-up episode and maybe just have like a one-off, and after all of Cycle 1, we'll just come back and do a review of the movie. That's what we'll do. That'll be our
We'll do that.
follow-up.
It'll be a bonus episode, maybe.
So getting back to animated series, one of the things that we talked about when we were like getting ready for this episode is not to put you in like your old spot, but I'm gonna put you in your old spot. Technically, this came out from 92 to 95. I was born in 90, so really, I don't think I really would have comprehended much in 92. 93 would have been questionable. 94, 95, I don't know. So I think most of my animated series was actually like reruns. So I call it nostalgia, but I guess it's nostalgia off of reruns. But you're old, and
I am one, not that much older than you. So two, it's not like I watched it the day it premiered. I mean, maybe I did. I don't know. I was only 4 years old. I don't know what I was doing.
But by the end of it, you would have.
Well, so that's the thing is I was trying to think about, I was like, I might have caught, like when you think of a kid, right, or yourself as a kid, there's memories, you were 1 and 2 years old, but you don't remember anything. So similarly with this, it's like, I remember seeing the series. I remember watching the series, but as far as like me having to watch it like every Saturday morning or whatever, if I was up and it was on, I'm sorry, for me, Saturdays was about Power Rangers. And
oh my God, we are totally on the same page there.
So
every Saturday was Power Rangers. Did you have all the Megazords that like transformed into all the like crazy shit?
No, salty about it. Moving on.
Ooh, I want to hear that story. Okay, moving on.
But no, so that was, I think as kids, we all had that one show that you always had to be at the TV for, like whether it was during the week or on the weekends. For me, every morning, it was the only time I think my parents loved, because that's where I just did not bug them with anything, because I would just sit there in front of the TV and watch it.
He was that child.
I was that child. And I'm proud to be that child, because my parents had at least 30 minutes to themselves.
Which, as a new parent, I will just tell you, that is heaven.
Yeah.
Good gosh, if you get 30 minutes that you don't have to be like tending to your children.
Yeah.
Whew.
Well, at least she didn't have to worry about me. I still had 2 younger brothers at the time. So, I mean.
Your mom is a saint. I'm just putting it out there.
But yeah, so I just remember watching the show, but I think I probably got more out of the reruns because I was older. So I was able to like understand what was going on. And I think when I would watch them, that's when they were coming out, I think, more during the week than they were like on the weekends and stuff.
Yeah, they play like every day after school, and it was like Batman and the Amazing Spider-Man. Is that when the big Spider-Man series was going on?
Maybe. So
I can't remember.
But I remember like
those were good days.
I know cartoons. Not that I don't still watch some of them, but I remember Batman would come on and I'd be like, I'd watch it. It was never the show that I was like, I would turn the TV on to watch. But if it was on, I'd watch it. And one of my brothers actually loved Batman, so if I changed it, he'd cry, and then it'd become a thing. And you have a sister, you get it.
I had siblings, yep.
So no, but
Teletubbies. Teletubbies.
There's more stories. Oh, God, I'm so glad my parents aren't here. But no, so I remember it, and I think my actual interaction with it was very similar to yours. It wasn't, back on when it first premiered, and
right.
and Cokes were still a nickel, and
it was the after school special.
Gas was 10 cents, and it wasn't back in World War II.
No, I definitely think I agree with that. The thing that I still look back, and I mean, I haven't been through the whole series of all 3 years, 4 years. Do math, 3 years. Yeah, I haven't gone back and watched all of it yet. I'm still kind of working through it a little bit, but I think just looking back, one of the things that I appreciated about it is it really. I mean, I guess if we talked about movies last week, and we're talking about the series this week, and especially the animated series. I think the thing that I appreciated so much is that it really dug into a lot of elements that I don't know that movies, one, have kind of addressed, or two, could address effectively, if that makes sense. We really haven't seen the very deep detective Batman in a movie aspect yet. You know what I mean? We saw it a little bit in the Christopher Nolan movies. On a low scale, Mm-hmm. So we saw it a little bit there, but yeah, we haven't really seen that like detective Batman a whole lot. I feel like we got a lot more of that in that Batman. And honestly, because it's a cartoon, you get certain advantages. It's kind of the same thing that we talked about in the comic book episode, that comic books give you a lot more advantages. There's just characters that I think translate better on an animated series as opposed to something live action. Bane kind of comes to mind, albeit this is not digging on the Tom Hardy Bane. I thought he was phenomenal, but that was a very different take on what was Bane. You know, Bane in the comic books was this raged up, juiced up person. They tried to do it in the Clooney thing, and it was
burn. My favorite part was he's like, bomb.
Yeah.
Bomb.
Yeah. That he was just a dunce. Like, he was so stupid. And I don't know. I weirdly enough, like, looking back at that movie, I still remember the whole like they take his hoses out or whatever, and he's like, that is like very, it's seared in my brain, bro.
Very Wicked Wick of the West. I'm melting.
Yeah, I would definitely say, like, as a young child, that scarred me. And I don't know why. It's not that really traumatic, but that freaked me out when I was a kid. So, like, I don't know. They tried to do the comic booky thing in that movie, but
if anything, that was like a PSA on don't do drugs, kids. Stay away from steroids. Legit.
It was very. What was the dare or whatever? Failed attempt at that. So I just I don't know. I think there's a lot more possibilities to do kind of more traditional characters in the animated series. So I really appreciated that. I think it was fun. They went into a bunch of series after that that I thought was cool. One of the things that's kind of cool that, I don't know, this is like 2020 hindsight type of thing, but like they went into the Batman Beyond series in 99.
Which I've already told you I was too cool to watch Batman and cartoons because I was in middle school.
Because, that's just middle school.
I was so cool.
And you have no idea. Screamo music was so popular and blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
Actually, no, that was like for me.
Was that high school?
No, it was like the Screamo, like
it was Green
Day
for me.
Slipknot type.
That's right.
So I remember during that time, Slipknot was a huge deal, and like bands like that, as well as a lot of like rap and hip hop was really like, we're talking like Nelly, Wyclef, like all of those people.
That was not my favorite years of hip hop.
But that was like when it started coming really big. So I was too cool to watch Batman Beyond. So I don't know very much about it.
I don't know. It's a very simple story. It's old man Batman takes young kid and turns him into new Batman. You know, the cool thing that I liked about the Batman Beyond series is like they had a couple of shots that showed like the history of Batman. So it had all the different. It even went like, I think there was one shot where it like scanned across all the different versions of Batman that you've seen in some type of animated series, and it even had like the Adam West like really cheesy Batman series.
Really?
Yeah. So it like scanned across all of that, and it was cool, like for a lot of different reasons. I love seeing old man Batman. That was cool. And it was a good show, like no doubt. It was definitely it was a good show. I don't know. It didn't hit the same notes, I guess, for me. Maybe as I was older, I didn't watch it as religiously. Again, maybe I was getting into the too cool for school type of thing. But yeah, the thing that I just appreciate is like it. To me, the Batman animated series in 92 to 95 sparked a lot of what we're seeing now in the Batman animated series. You know, there's a lot of those series going on. There's a bunch of different iterations of Batman and the Joker and all of the characters. And it's just, for me, I think that built a foundation to what some of the kids are watching today, which is really cool for me because it's like, I'm now a dad. I'm going to be having a daughter growing up, and it's like it's gonna be really interesting to see what she's drawn to, what's on TV, what those characters look like, you know, because like I looked up the current Batman animated series, and the Batman looks totally weird to me, you know, like it just doesn't look. I don't know, the way that they just did it's like a bunch of wavy lines. It's supposed to be all cool and hip and all. I was like, I don't know.
I think we've reached this point in our lives where we look at what the kids are watching these days, and we're like,
I know. Do I sound super old right now?
We're like, what the hell is this? That's not Batman. Let me show you Batman. Dust off a poster. But I actually have some really interesting stuff that I thought you would find very fascinating and very proud. Most people have said it is the best adaptation of the comics, like
I'd agree.
Of anything. Movie, anything. It's the best adaptation. Did you know that it was the second best animated series of all time?
What's the first?
Think.
Simpsons.
Yep.
That makes sense. You can't bash on Simpsons.
So it was like the only thing. So the only thing better than that was The Simpsons. It was also, of all time, ranked number 2 behind The Simpsons.
That makes sense too.
But it has been ranked as like the 7th greatest cartoon of all time, and it has won 4 Emmys.
That I didn't know. I'm happy to hear that. That is good.
I know it's one of your favorite things, and when we first started talking about the cycle, you were so excited to talk about the animated series, and we just waited till episode 5 to talk about it, just to torture you.
It was worth it. It's worth it.
But yeah, no, I saw that, and I was like, okay, Caleb's gonna love this information, so I decided to make sure we.
I didn't know about the Emmys thing. That's really cool. I think it totally deserves it. So it's good to see. Sometimes it took DiCaprio way too long to get his Academy Award stuff going. So
yeah, that could be a cycle in itself. So we're not going to dive too far into that. But I think now's a good time to go into one of our favorite segments, our back label advertisement. Today's beer is Disco Ninja from Revision Brewing Company.
it's a simple universal fact that ninjas are badass. You know what else is badass? Revision beer. Our buddies at Shoe Tree Brewing kicked around the ideas with us to develop this tasty, tantalizing, karate chop in your freaking mouth, kaleidoscopic nunchuck hits to the dome with Citra, Galaxy, Mosaic, and Amarillo, stealthily slaying your taste buds, one sip at a time. Okay, I'll definitely say with good IPA. I mean, I'll definitely say good IPA. It dries my mouth out a little bit, so that took me a little bit to get through. That was trying to go like cool radio voice thing.
It's like I want to wet my whistle, yeah. And you're drinking sand instead.
Yeah, it was like karate chop to your freaking mouth. Yeah, it was like. I need one of those like Mike Plosive things to like. So that took a little bit.
It took a minute, but it's still good.
Okay, be honest. This can is dope.
I almost wish it was Batman on the can. I'm not gonna lie, but wearing bell bottoms.
Are those bell? Oh, they are bell bottoms. I didn't even notice that.
It's disco, man.
That totally makes sense.
So he's got the afro, wearing bell bottoms on a disco ball.
There's so much of this can that I didn't even know that was
with katana swords.
Well, I know. I didn't know it was an afro.
What? You just saw this person had a big ass head?
Not my proudest moment.
They're racking up, sir. No, actually, this can is really cool. I don't know why I'm really digging the vibrancy of it. Like, I could see this like on a poster. Like,
okay, so the thing that's cool is like I was walking down the aisle with this. Not with this. Okay, I was walking down the aisle to find a beer. Okay, I was trying to find the beer, right? And this was just sitting there, and it was like immediately my eye was like drawn to it.
It was like a disco ball, and it was just like, hey, party over here.
Although I feel stupid, I missed the afro. But
you were blinded by the disco colors.
I was blinded by the tie-dye. Oh, yeah. I don't know. Something about it. Basically, the way this went down is like, 1, Disco Ninja. I was like, dope name. That's cool. 2, hazy IPA. I don't love hazy IPAs, but I was like, okay, IPA, I'll take it. I read one sentence. It's a simple universal fact that ninjas are badass. I was like, sold. I don't care what the rest of this back label is.
Get in my basket now.
I was like, I'm done. That's good. That is a cool back label. So, scores. What are you giving this?
Well, so for me, you don't like hazy IPAs. I guess I still don't know the difference between a hazy IPA and an IPA in general. I will say, beer-wise, it's growing on me. The more I drink it, the more I'm like okay with it, if that makes sense.
So my submission of this whole podcast is that I'm going to continue just getting IPAs, and by the end of like 2 or 3 years, you'll just be an IPA drinker.
Okay, well then I'll do the same, but I'll just get a lot of sours. Just
now I'm
mess with your taste buds. But no, so like for me, the flavor is actually pretty good. Like it's growing on me. Like I said, every drink I like more than the last. But I don't know if that's just because it is a kind of a dry IPA. So I'm like, ooh, wetness. But no, it's good. Probably, I don't know. I wouldn't say it's my favorite IPA that we've had so far. The can's dope. So I would say we'll do can 9.
No, we're doing one score. Remember, we
And
changed
then
it.
I'm averaging it out, bro. Just give me a moment.
This process is just, you take some time, bro.
I am critiquing this can and the beer.
Okay, well, what you critique, I'm going to open myself another beer.
Oh, well, you got time. No, so I'll give it like a 9, and then I'll give the beer. It's decent. We'll go with a 6. So that averages out to like a 7.5.
Okay, you can't average and not know how to average. I mean, that's like counterintuitive, right?
Okay, this 7% volume is still. It is late, sir. It's been a long week.
I'm going to give this beer a good solid average of 7.6.
I seriously thought you were gonna be like a 3. I was gonna be like, really? All of that build up for a 3?
I think it's good. I think it's a good beer. It's a good can. It's a great back label. I mean, anything that like starts with ninjas or badass on a beer, I feel like you got to give some credit to. So
Yeah, we'll definitely have to throw this up on the social media so you guys can see the afro. Notice the afro, please.
yeah,
Notice
because
the
I
afro.
missed it really bad. You know what I was thinking? There's like some stupid cartoon where ninjas had big heads, and I think that's where my head went. So I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just saying that's what happened. So
The thought of a disco ninja, like watch out, and then like moonwalks out of the frame.
moonwalks into the shadows.
Yeah, like John
Just disappears.
It's like John Travolta coming in, slaying some people, and then
That would be cool. So moving into our next little topic.
yeah. So we
I'm
talked.
I'm excited to see this for you, because you've been pretty heavily into the live action series lately.
Yeah. So it was really funny. We talked about Batman, and so because I have this natural tendency to like go from the beginning, start from the like I can't just dive into a show sometimes, or I can't just dive into a thing. I have to be like, okay, how did we get here?
Okay.
And that's anything. Like,
No, I agree. I'm totally the same way.
and you know me too. Just in everyday life, it's like,
Are you one of those people that if you start a movie, you have to finish it?
yes,
Okay, I love my wife dearly, but it annoys me so bad when she like falls asleep to a movie. I can't fall asleep to a movie. I can fall asleep to a lot of crap, but if I start a movie, I have to finish the movie.
I can only fall asleep if I've already seen it.
Yes, I agree.
If
If I haven't seen it, then I'm watching
like,
the whole-
what's happening? Anyway, no, yeah. So I had to go to the beginning. So obviously, I started with the 60s series with our favorite Batman ever. Not really, but Adam West. So,
Not favorite Batman ever, but you got to give some props. Everybody loves Adam West.
well, and that's, I think a big part of that is because it was outside of the serial movies that we talked about before. We're like, come back next week. We had to go to the movie theater. He was probably, I think, one of the first screen portrayals of the Batman character. So
Sure.
I think for as nostalgic as Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill are for us, people were for Adam West as Batman.
Yep.
Because that's what they knew as Batman. Because if you think about it, after the series premiered and they had that movie, there wasn't really another Batman series or movie until the late 80s, which is with Michael Keaton.
Right.
So when you thought of Batman in the 80s,
He
70s,
was the Batman.
he was the Batman.
Yeah.
So yeah, I went back and watched them, and when we talk about Adam West, we talk about voices matching people. It's weird because I feel like his voice matches him as a person, but I don't know if him as a person doesn't match the Batman character, or if it's his voice that doesn't match the Batman character.
Okay, but you have to think about something. At that point in time, there was nothing to really play off of.
Yeah.
Kevin Conroy was not the Batman at that point. There was no Michael Keaton. There was no Val Kilmer. There was no
not
George
even
Clooney. There was nothing like that. That was
Batman.
Batman.
I'm not even sure these people were born then, dude. That's the crazy part. Oh God, sorry, Adam West. We just like dated you. No, you're right. Because like I said, the only thing before that was those serial ones, which when you watch this series with those movies, very similar Batman portrayals as far as costume goes, mannerisms, and I guess the characterization of Batman.
Mm-hmm.
Very like wannabe comic booky, but more sitcom. Like I think I remember reading some of the stuff on it that it was the show was designed and written more as a sitcom than it was like an action series or anything like that. And that's how they played it. That's why you had very comic-y gimmicks of like the on-screen onomatopoeia of like boom, kablow. Like that's why they did that. You know,
Yep.
it was very sitcom-y. And they it's weird because I think I remember reading that they lumped it into the sitcom category, but it was the only like sitcom that didn't have a live audience watching at the time.
Well, and I mean,
Which makes sense.
what do you lump it in with at that point in time? I mean, that's the hard part.
Yeah.
It kind of just was this thing that lived on its own. And maybe, honestly, that's probably why it's still kind of cherished in the way that it is. Because I do think it's just this thing that kind of lives on its own. You know, there's nothing else really like it. It's a very unusual interpretation. I mean, by our standards now, the very dark and gritty Batman that we know now, it's a very unusual interpretation of Batman. But
at the time, I think that was very...
well, and it sold. I mean, that was the thing. Is it people loved it? It was a superhero.
It was
on
entertaining.
Screen. Yeah, they
you
loved
wanted
it.
to watch it, you know,
Which ultimately, that was the point of television. It was very new. Television was very kind of new. Not everybody even had a television in their home. So,
or if you did, you had one.
right.
Where you think of like nowadays where we have one in each room.
Yeah, and it's like a 10-inch box. I mean, can you believe that? Like literally, I have an iPad. That's probably what a television was at that point, you know? So...
yeah, I look at my laptop and I'm like, this is crap. I need a bigger screen.
Mm-hmm. Dude, yeah. That was a different time.
So crazy. But I think the other interesting thing about that series is it was still geared toward teenagers, and you can totally see that in like what there's not
Sure.
like it wasn't dark, it wasn't at all like super heavy violence, anything like that. And they always had some sort of like moral behind it, like always wear your seatbelts, kids, you know, that type of like, you know, eat your vegetables, all that stuff. Like there was always some weird moral like lesson, I guess you could take from the episode. So it was just very, very cheesy, very campy, very, very upbeat and lifting for even Batman. Even for, not that Batman is ever uplifting and not campy, but even for that, it was still very...
depends on it. Campy can be very time oriented.
There's a range.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was very interesting. It was very it's very obvious when you're watching it, but still, again, in my own mind, still entertaining for me, because I try to watch, whenever I watch things, especially things that are older like this in this case, I try to like put myself in that time, you know, in that time period, and watching it as if I was, you know, a kid who ran home every afternoon to like watch this show, you know, in black and white or even in color, whatever TV you had then. And I don't know, I found it highly entertaining for that reason.
Yeah. I just think there's something special about it, because if you put it in the context of the time period that it was in, the things that were going on, just the whole perspective of culture at that time, there's just something special about it.
Yep.
You know, nobody is going to look at that show today and be like, this is the greatest show ever. It's purely just based on the show. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that, but there is just a deep respect of knowing the time period, the culture, what it entailed to kind of put that type of production on, that just kind of still makes it special.
Yep.
You know, and honestly, I think is, to some degree, you could say that, like, thankfully, because that happened, we now are in the era that we are in, where Batman is very much a character that lives on live screen consistently now. I mean, honestly, it's pretty regular.
Yeah, Batman is a very cash bat.
Yeah, didn't we learn is like bajillion dollars or some crap like that?
2 trillion.
Oh, makes me sad. Well, let's talk about a series
A little more current.
is very much current, that is very much weird, that I think in episode 1 I kind of hipped you to. We're going to talk about Gotham, because technically it is a Batman series, but it's kind of not a Batman series.
Well, it's all the Batman characters, but it's not really about Batman.
Yeah, it's the... I mean, honestly, if you really want to put it in, it's the origin stories of all the characters outside of Batman.
Yeah.
Albeit none of them are probably actually the origin stories of those characters, but it's a origin story of all the characters outside of Batman. But as we learned, that's the great thing with comics is you can make up whatever origin story you want. It's a story about a great character. And I think the cool thing that Gotham did is that it did take a perspective on a version of Gotham, on a version of these characters. And for whatever you think about it, it did it effectively. I don't know if everybody loved it, but it did it effectively.
Well, I mean, I thought, and it's interesting because I never thought of what is Gotham from the perspective of Commissioner, or well, he's not Commissioner at the time, but of James Gordon. You know, you growing up, we had the animated series, and almost even any movie that we watched in the 90s, James Gordon was already the commissioner. He was already, you know, like well established, high ranking in the police force in Gotham City. But you obviously, when you think about that, like he had to have like history. Like he couldn't have just one day. He wasn't just sprouted into existence and was already Commissioner Gordon. Like there was some build up to it. And I thought this was a very cool, like, I guess, prequel to all of these characters and to Batman to showcase James Gordon as a character, and that he was more than just your, you know, 5-minute total screen time in a movie, or, you know, maybe every 4th episode from the animated series. Like he was a person, and he has feelings, and he had complexities.
I mean, kind of. That's the funny thing with the way that they kind of made his character in that whole show is like he has feelings, but they always get trumped about something else.
Well, I think the whole thing with that is he has feelings, but his morals were stronger.
Yeah, but they screwed up everything. His morals kind of. I mean,
didn't say it was right. I'm just saying like his morals.
This is the funny,
which is very Batman-esque if you think about it, because you know Batman had feelings.
Well,
but
I agree.
His morals are what kept him from, you know, doing the things he did.
The thing that was weird about the Commissioner Gordon thing, the whatever James Gordon thing, all, you know, coming up through officer and lieutenant and all that stuff, but in all of the interpretations and adaptations and all that stuff that we've seen, Jim Gordon was always to some degree kind of like a guiding post for Batman. Okay. So like on rare occasion you saw Jim Gordon in a situation where he wasn't kind of morally like, this is what's right and this is what's wrong. Okay. The weird part with the Gotham series is like he went kind of all over the place, because it was like in the first season he like,
oh, he was hardcore by the book, all the rules.
Yeah, but then wasn't it at the end of first season that he like thought that he killed Penguin, and then he was like, oh my god, I'm a murderer, and then I need to turn myself in, and then he's dating Rana Bachran's, I can't remember her name now. What's her character name? Totally spacing on it. The doctor. Gosh, I can't remember her name. I'm sorry. Lee. Good gosh. I'm totally spacing on it. So they like had their whole fling and all that stuff, and then they end up getting pregnant. And am I ruining stuff for you?
No.
Okay, good.
So, I mean, I guess for our listeners, I haven't finished the series.
I'm really trying really hard not to ruin a bunch of stuff for you.
I am on season 4 of 6.
6 seasons.
So
right.
I'm like more than halfway there. You're good, because she's already gotten the pregnants, and she's
the bad stuff happened,
and I don't want to ruin it for
and he was a douche. I mean, let's be honest, he was a total douche. He was a total douche. So, anyways, my whole point with that
he did the whole like, I have to go find myself now because I did something bad. And it's just like, whatever. Dude, you're a cop. Come on.
Yeah. My whole point with it was a very weird take on. I loved it. Please hear me. I thought it was awesome. I love when they take characters in a very different direction. So. It was great. I thought it was cool. I love the actor who played James Gordon. I thought he killed it.
Did you know that he was on the OC?
No. Why did you tell me that? I didn't need to know that.
And it was weird because, so again, me just when I'm ever watching anything, I'm like, who is this person? What were they in? Why do I know them? They couldn't have just sprung up and become this character. And I learned, I was like, he was on the OC. And I remember like, that's a stupid show. And now I'm like, okay, well, he's a good actor, I guess.
He is a good actor. No, I don't know. Here's my assessment of the show. The show is fun to watch. I love Jada Pinkett. She played Fish.
Oh my god, she has one of my favorite characters.
I love Jada Pinkett Smith. I think she killed her character. I wish she was in
total
more
badass.
of the show. Yeah, I really wish she was in more of the show. Poison Ivy, that take on Poison Ivy I thought was so cool.
Yeah, because I think all of my Poison Ivy not interactions, I guess like the portrayals I know of her are very just kind of like she's just a beautiful girl and she can get you to do whatever she wants and she loves plants, which she still is in this show. But I think what was really cool about the show is you have characters like Poison Ivy, like Dr. Freeze, or sorry, no, he's Dr. Freeze, like all these other characters that are like in other portrayals are very one dimensional, and in this one they're like, okay, but they're not just one dimensional here. There is a slightly different take, or they've just elaborated more on their origin or storyline. And I thought that was really awesome.
Yeah.
I think it was really cool because, you know, diving so deep into this Batman universe, Batman isn't everything, which makes sense. He's Batman. This was kind of cool because not every episode involved Bruce Wayne at all.
Right.
And I was kind of cool with that. Like, it was just like, you know, there are these whole other characters that have these complexities and they have these backgrounds and storylines that maybe like I felt myself wanting to know more about, which I didn't realize I did until I started watching the show. Mm-hmm. I was like, wait, I want to know more about the Riddler, which not my favorite Riddler, and I thought he was annoying.
Dude, really?
I thought he was annoying. I'm sorry.
Okay. Wait, you're on season 4, right?
Yeah.
Where is he at right now? Is he full blown Riddler yet?
No, he was this was like where I'm at. I think he was full blown Riddler, and then that's when he found out that Penguin did the thing to his new girlfriend.
Okay.
And then he went crazy, and he's no longer like smart. But then now you're starting to see him like become smart again. Like he's
okay.
And so Penguin's like, "You're still in there, my friend."
Okay. The portrayal of the Riddler in this one. Okay, I'm gonna contradict myself. This actually, so far, and I have a reason for this. So far, the Riddler that we saw in the Gotham is my favorite Riddler.
Really?
Yes, but not because necessarily of I loved every part of how they portrayed his character. The whole like I'm dumb Riddler thing was not my favorite. You know, like it was a weird way to take his character to like make him the full blown Riddler when he's like full blown Riddler is by far my favorite.
Ugh,
you know,
now I need to get there.
Yeah, like when he's like a genius who is stumping people, who is past all the emotional stuff, like that is by far my favorite Riddler. The thing that is interesting is this interpretation of the Riddler is the first one where we see kind of the intelligence battling the psychotic Riddler, which I think is something that we have not seen in Riddler. Obviously, Jim Carrey is kind of really our only base point in a live action outside of like some cartoons, you know, but like there is this point with the Riddler that it is a highly, highly intelligent individual battling a very psychotic mentality.
It's very Hannibal Lecter.
Yeah.
Like,
and that's the thing that I loved about this is because it really showcased that thing. The reason that I now appreciate this so much is because in the new Robert Pattinson Batman, I think there's an opportunity. We don't know. We know that the Riddler's the
main villain, yeah.
But I think they're going to have an opportunity to show that Riddler, that very highly intelligent, battling psychosis type of thing. And I'm on board for that. I'm 100% on board for that.
So, I mean, we've talked about all these characters, but we need to talk about one character in particular that I'm interested to see what you have to say about him. And that is the one and only Joker. You know, the whole reason for our current talk. From what I'm gathering in past conversations, and
we can't have this conversation.
Just spoil it for me. I don't care. I really want to know because you've talked so
fudge, man.
You have not liked this character or this portrayal, and I don't. And I guess my question, and then maybe this might not do any spoilers for anybody or myself. Like, do you just not like the way this character was written, or do you not like the way that the actor portrayed him?
Nope. I'm a dude. This is good. Okay, all right.
Do it.
I'm going to spoil it for you. This is spoilers hardcore. You are in season 4. Jerome is the Joker.
Oh yeah, his name's Jerome in this.
Yeah. So Jerome is the Joker. Jerome is not the Joker.
Oh.
Jerome. So the version that you're seeing right now is a version of the Joker that I loved.
Oh.
I thought it was great. It was very interesting, very psychotic, not a lot of intelligence. So that's the one thing that the Joker does have, that in this version, he is intelligent, but they don't play into that part of him that much. It's much more psychotic, wanting to just have chaos for the sake of chaos, which we talked about last week. I'm very into that style of the Joker. This version of the Joker, I love. What you haven't seen yet
is
Jerome has a twin brother.
Oh, wait. No, I know about this person. No, I know this because he comes out in a different episode at some point.
Jerome has a twin brother. Jerome dies, and the twin brother takes on the mantle of the Joker, the actual mantle. Jerome's twin brother, I believe, is the one who kills him.
Gotcha. Okay. No, you know what? And that's...
That version of the Joker I don't dig as much.
Because I think I remember an episode, I think it was season 2, and you see that there's twins, or there's a hint of that there's a twin or something, but for whatever reason, Jerome is the one that like becomes like more prominent of the two. For I don't remember what reason.
The twins, it's the classic: one twin gets sent into poverty, the other one gets sent into wealth and prosperity. You think that there's not a mental issue,
Gotcha.
But the other one ends up turning into what would be
Gotcha.
the classic white-faced, red-lipped.
So what don't you like? Like, what is? I guess I'm curious because we've had previous episodes where you've like refused to talk about this character or this portrayal of the character.
Yeah,
so I'm curious.
So let me put it this way, in the best way that I could put it, and this is not doing the other actors any service. Jerome, who you see now, is the Heath Ledger Joker.
Yeah, very maniacal, very chaotic, very like...
Whatever the twin's name is, I can't remember his name right now. He is the Jack Nicholson Joker.
Mob bossy?
A little bit more mob bossy, more intelligent, gets the gang together, all this stuff. The Jerome has a gang, but it's more like cult mentality. You know, it's like all these people who are kind of like mentally unstable and they follow him because cult mentality, right? The other Joker... Yeah, he kind of has that like more organized crime feeling to him. And I just don't dig it as much. It doesn't have...
Just because you like the more chaotic...
Yeah, for me, I like the chaos. I like the... I'm doing this because I want to do it, and it's gonna...
Because it's a Tuesday and I'm bored.
Yeah, yep. I don't know. There's something about the second iteration of the Joker that they put in the Gotham that I definitely didn't dig as much.
It's that ninja slaying your taste buds.
Yeah, seriously. So, yeah, I hate spoiling that for you, but that is what ends up happening.
Well, and it's funny because I think it's probably maybe more of a spoiler for anyone who hasn't seen this series. But like I just said, like I felt like there was a hint of it, and
there was. There was. But
I feel like his twin's name was Jack.
It was something with a J. They're both J's. Obviously,
it was like
they played
Jack
off
and
the
Jerome
Joker.
or something.
It was or Julius or
Jeremiah.
His name's Jeremiah.
Yes,
it's Jerome and Jeremiah. Yep. Yeah. I don't know. There's just I know why they did it. I get why they did it. It's not my favorite way. That's my one gripe with the movie. That's because the first way that they played the actor who played the Joker the first way. Obviously, he played both, but the way that they played him the first time, I thought he did fantastic in. Mm-hmm. I wanted to see that be the Joker through the end. And I think I just felt I was like let down. I felt like I was like, you could have just left it there.
Or maybe started with the more mob bossy Joker and
and go the other way. I don't know. I mean, the problem is like the way that they developed the story is like Jerome's key to developing Bruce Wayne as a young whatever person at that point. So I don't know. It's the one fault that I think that show has. Well, okay, there's a lot of weird faults with that show. They kind of went a lot of weird directions with it, but the positives of that show is I think it really showcased the villains well. Poison Ivy I thought was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Catwoman, Selena Kyle, awesome.
I think the really cool thing about this show is how much it featured the storylines of the villains. Like, yeah, you know, it was centered around James Gordon and to some extent even Bruce Wayne, you know, as he was growing up. But a lot of the main storyline involved one of or multiple villains. You know, like the Penguin is basically in every single episode.
He was fantastic.
And I thought he was great. And I found myself annoyed by him for the right reasons. Does that make sense? Like, I found myself like, oh my God, just get him a damn bottle or something. Like, he's being such a baby. But like, that's because that's what,
to some degree, that's what you would expect a young Penguin to be.
exactly. It's when you, especially in this, I guess, version of his origin, like that, it makes sense. And you're just like, oh, you can totally see it.
One of the things that I appreciated is, like, obviously with it being called Gotham, it really focused on the city of Gotham.
And not Batman. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, we talked about this earlier. Batman is only as strong as Gotham as a city because the whole initiative of Batman is to save Gotham. Like, that's the point of what Batman became Batman to do, right? So that's the one thing I will say that I think they nailed on the money. They created this wickedly chaotic, unstable, gang-ridden city, albeit not the like more comic booky-esque of Tim Burton Gotham, which I still really love and appreciate that. It just had this vibe to it that I thought was great. It was real world, but not at the same time. There's some episodes where like Gotham gets over and different gangs take over different sections and all that stuff. I literally played that shit out in a comic book video game before, you know? So it's just like, it's cool to see things that like you've kind of experienced in other mediums kind of be seen on screen. So
Yep. I think, you know, you mentioned the Nolan movies as being the closest to real life, like real world settings. I think Gotham was the same for the series themselves.
Yeah.
Very, very real world, very like you could sort of see it happening, minus the, you know, mutations of the people. Not that there aren't mutations, but like to that level.
right.
So no,
They definitely laid into the comic book side on some
Of course.
stuff.
So no, I think it's I think it's a pretty good series. I think that season 3 might have been its like worst season so far.
Okay, I have to one thing. So, do you know about how the whole Gotham thing went down?
What?
Season 3 almost ended the show,
Okay.
and somehow I don't remember all the details, but somehow it got saved. But the requirement is like you really have to like reimagine the way it goes, which is why you probably noticed in season 4 they really laid into the villains thing in season 4, because I think they were really banking on like Batman, you know, like nobody cares about young Batman. I mean, honestly, that's the thing. Nobody really cares about young Batman.
Yeah.
You want to see Bruce Wayne like grow, develop, yada yada. Yeah, he grows into Batman. All that's cool. The way that they set up the show, people were more interested in the villains, and that's why you see in season 4 they really start to lay into, okay, let's develop the villains, let's get them moving forward.
Yeah.
Because it was a little bit of a slow process in 1 through 3.
Yeah. Well, and you saw, I think you could say that after season 2, yeah, you saw that focus being shifted towards James Gordon and Bruce Wayne.
Right.
Kind of like, oh, we're getting near the, you know, he's becoming Batman.
Right.
And then, yeah, all of a sudden in season 4, it's like, nope, we're going to now divert your attention over here to these guys.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's all about the villains, which honestly, I think we've mentioned this before with the Batman series. Those are some of the better characters in a lot of ways.
Oh, yeah.
But I think it's because you can play them so many different ways. There's a range for them. And we said this last week, you know, with Batman, you're kind of like stuck. Like you have a range, but like the range is a lot smaller on how you can portray Batman. These other characters, as we've just discussed, there's so many different ways to play them. You know, super dark, super campy, super...
The addition of characters. I mean, honestly, my 2 favorite characters in that whole show, Fish, Jada Pinkett Smith.
Who's not like part of the original comics or anything.
Yep, that was a new character. And Barbara King.
So it's funny because I was like... Because she's in season 1, she's married to him, like, or she's his fiance.
Engaged,
sorry, yeah. And I remember thinking, like, wait, who is she? Who does she become? What? I don't remember her. I've like done all this viewing and watching and reading, and I don't remember her. And then I was like, oh, because she's an original character.
She is.
She ends up kind of being a badass. I'm not gonna lie. Like,
oh, dude, it gets where by the end of season 6, you're gonna love her. Like, she's one of my favorites.
It's just because she's just so crazy. She's one of those crazy people that you're like, oh, you're crazy, and I love it.
Yep. So I think we could probably leave that there. We'll move into the last segment. I think we can probably cut a little bit short because we kind of went into a lot of what we were talking about in some of the other segments that we were going to do. But I think the main point that we wanted to do for our last segment is just kind of highlight that the animated series gave a lot. It's kind of what we said in our first segment with and let me rephrase that. Not the anime, but all series gave something. And be it Gotham in it standing on its own to some degree and really kind of empowering the villain side of it as opposed to the Batman side of it. I thought that was cool. The animated series, we talked about this already, but just really diving into some of the aspects of Batman that you haven't seen outside of the comic books and other places. We haven't really seen the detective part in much of anything outside of the animated series and the comics, and so seeing that was really cool. I think that built a strong foundation for a lot of the series that we're seeing now, and then again, what we talked about with the Adam West Batman is just that put on screen a concept that I don't think people in that time period really felt was possible. And it was really successful and it did well. And so albeit I think there's things that they didn't do as well. I don't know if the, kind of what we're talking about, the bromance between Joker and Batman. I don't know if that's shown as strong in the animated series. I love Kevin Conroy, the voice. I love Mark Hamill as the Joker. I don't know if you get the bromance as much, You do get the needing each other thing. And obviously in some of the animated series, I know Mark Hamill and Kevin Conroy did The Killing Joke, and that was a movie, and that got shown really heavily. But I'm just saying in the actual animated series, I'm not sure you really got the dark and gritty, effed up nature of the bromance that they had. So maybe that wasn't done quite as well. But I just really appreciate them because I think they gave something, and it was something that I hope movies can build a little bit off of. I hope that people can reinterpret, I think they were really important to get to the place where we are now, where we're seeing such a drastic change from Adam West Batman to now Robert Pattinson playing Batman, Ben Affleck playing Batman, Christian Bale playing Batman, all very different portrayals of that same character, but yet very cool in their own way.
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, it's when you look at, I would say, not just portrayals, but storylines of these characters when it comes to the television series versus the movies. I think because that you don't need to develop this character in the first 10 minutes of this movie, or in this episode, the same way you have to in a movie, you can, show the character development and growth like across multiple episodes. You don't need to be like, come right in. My parents died when I was a kid. You know what I mean? Like you have to in the movies. In the series, you can have an episode where it's all about them, going out, like getting ready to go to the theater and arriving at the theater, and you can have a whole episode of that. You don't even have to have the episode really end with them being killed, with his parents being killed. For those of you who don't know who them is in this situation.
We've talked about it enough, so hopefully you do.
But you know what I mean? You can have a whole episode. In a movie, you're like, that's like all of 5 seconds, and you need to get that point across and move on. So I think that's what's really interesting, and why maybe actors love portraying these maybe more on a series level, because they're allowed to develop it over a course of time. You don't have to come in, nail it in an hour and a half, and then, go be a normal human being after that. Like, I think that is where we love a lot of the series a lot more. I do think I love the series versions of some of these characters, and actually not even these characters in general, a lot more than I do some of the movies, because the movies, you really have to come in, get your point across, and move on. The series, you can kind of like drag it out. There's some more development. You can have these features like these villains. The villains can have their moment in the sun, right?
Right.
And I think that's what's really fascinating about movies versus television. The story arc can be greater. and it can and in a way it can also be shorter. Like when you look at the 60s versus maybe the animated series, you get the same storyline going across multiple episodes. Whereas the 60s, it was very like, here's the villain, we defeated him, moving on to the next villain, which to some extent in a lot of the series nowadays, they do the same character as a major point for maybe a couple of episodes. So it's a merger. I think more recent television series are the merger of the two, but you're still allowed to develop them across multiple segments. I don't know how, I guess, as opposed to just the one movie. When you talk about character development, we kind of mentioned it earlier. You mentioned Mark Hamill. I think him being the Joker, or being that character, right, in the animated series and in the video games and all that, I think it's made him a better actor. And I think it also, if you look at the way he played Luke Skywalker in the original trilogy of Star Wars, then look at him in the most recent trilogy. Very dark, very like, just kind of like, what's the word? Very cynical, very cynical.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting the way he's developed as an actor playing this character. So I don't know. I thought that was really interesting to see, because you see his major roles of Luke Skywalker, original trilogy, Joker for like 20 years, and then he's Luke Skywalker again. But Luke Skywalker is kind of like very cynical, very like conspiracy theory, very like, the world's going to end. What are you doing? Like, why do I need to show you what the Force is?
No, I think that's good. I think that's probably a good place to wrap it up a little bit.
Once again, an episode where we could talk about this for 5 hours and...
Well, but hold on. So I have a fun surprise for you, because I think you articulated this really well. And it's going to lead into something that I was going to surprise you with, and hopefully some of our listeners.
I like surprises.
So you talked about in our kind of last segment how you really enjoyed the fact of series give an opportunity for character development.
Yes.
And I 100% agree with that. I think that series, one of the things that we've seen, the Daredevil series that Marvel did with Netflix, albeit that got scrapped, although they're kind of talking about maybe trying to rehash it. Yeah, like they really liked that thing. Contracts got in the way and it got really hard.
They didn't like the Ben Affleck version of Daredevil?
We're not going to talk about that. So something got announced this week.
Ooh.
HBO,
okay,
who is part of Warner Media, who is producing the Robert Pattinson Batman, just announced that there is going to be a Batman Year One Batman series on HBO Max based around the Robert Pattinson Batman.
HBO really wants me to subscribe to HBO Max.
There's a lot of good content on there.
They really want me to.
For all the reasons that you just said, I think this is going to be a fantastic series, because so Batman, if you don't know anything about the new Batman movie that's coming out next year, Matt Reeves is directing, Robert Pattinson's playing Batman, Riddler's the main Joker, or Riddler's the main villain of that thing. Anyways, so it looks like it, but the whole premise of that is that young Batman, but Batman Year Two. Like, that's kind of the premise of that movie, is like, hey, I've been doing this for a little while, but not that long. So I'm still like, I still have combat boots as like my boots, but I'm a little bit more polished than I was like a few weeks ago. Right. So I'm
not tripping over my cape.
Yeah. I can fly with my cape now.
Can you imagine? Okay. Sorry. We'll hold this off for later. Continue.
Anyway. So the series is supposed to be like a Year One type of thing. Right. And so, anyways, the whole point of the thing is, like, I don't know about the series. They haven't really announced a ton about the series, but it's basically supposed to be that precursor, like prequel Year One type of thing, and tell kind of some of those Batman Year One stories that we haven't really seen in the live action necessarily as of yet. I mean, we kind of did it with the Christian Bale thing, but it was like, I'm Bruce Wayne that just turned into awesome Batman. It was like really fast, you didn't get to see any of the total F-ups or any of that stuff, So anyways, I just thought that would be a cool thing to like let you know about, because like everything you just talked about, I think that totally applies in this situation. They could do 12 episodes or 10 episodes and it would really be a build up into developing like the world, the character, the villains. I hope there's cool villains. I don't know, but so yeah, fun fact.
You know what I want? I want a series. We can call it Batman Year One. But like I want it to be a comedy. Like I want it to be like I just mentioned, like Batman tripping on his cape. Like he goes after a villain and poof, falls because he tripped on his cape. Or like he trips on a rock, or he goes to do a parkour jump off a building and then like misses and just falls. Like,
okay, I'm telling you, you need to watch Harley Quinn on HBO Max.
Oh God.
You gotta watch it, bro.
So what I'm learning from this whole cycle is that Caleb really wants me to be an IPA lover, and he really wants me to be a Batman fan. He wants me to be a
Well, I mean, there was a point that I like tried to get Batman to be our first cycle, so I guess it worked out.
You did. It just took a year.
So we'll wrap it up there. We have one more episode in the cycle.
We have one more.
Dun, dun, dun. So we had kind of a fun thing that I think we're going to do this week. It is October.
Yes.
And Robert is a total October freak. He watches scary movies all the time, and he does all this stuff. So he actually had a great idea. We're going to be putting some social posts up. We don't exactly know how we're going to do it yet, but we're going to figure out how to do it. But it's going to involve some of the Joker laughs, the iconic Joker laughs, and you guys are going to have to guess which Joker laugh it is. And I'm going to try and make it as difficult as I can. I'm going to figure that out. I haven't figured that out yet, but we're going to figure that out. So be looking out for that. Go check out the social media sites for that nice little segment.
I'm excited. It's a great way to kick off October, the spooky season. I'm going to say I'm not big on watching anything other than spooky related things. I think Batman in that category, so I'm going to continue watching the Gotham and see where this goes.
I would say, actually, ironically, I think Gotham is probably the most. I think that so I heard this the other day. I think they call it the rogue category of villain characters, which is like the nightmarish characters.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like Scarecrow. Joker's always thrown in there.
He's a staple. You can't do Batman and not Joker.
But it's just all the more like, there's this weird one. He's from the video game. He like dresses up as a pig and he murders people.
Pig.
Professor Pig.
It's Mr. Pig.
It's just Mr. Pig.
Yeah, PYG.
Oh, that's right. Okay, yeah, whatever. That one is. Oh, he's freaky.
Creepy.
He's super creepy.
Isn't there a horror movie like that?
I feel like there probably is.
I think there's a horror movie because I remember watching that. He's in Gotham, and I remember watching him like, this was a movie I watched.
Yep. Yeah, it's super crazy. Anyways, those are kind of the best Batman characters to some degree because they have that nightmarish like I'm replaying the Batman Arkham series right now, and Scarecrow in that. Oh my gosh, he's creepy as all hell. So yeah, if you want some creepy content, most of the time. So, yeah, we're gonna wrap it up there. Go check out all of the social media sites. Finally get back into the YouTube page.
Yeah.
There's only like 4 videos, but if you want to go subscribe, that'd be great. We would love. Go subscribe to the other ones too. We have Twitter, we have Facebook, we have Instagram. We're posting regularly. We've been doing pretty good on the social media posts. Robert does all of that. I contribute occasionally.
Yeah, it's usually, hey, did you do the post?
Yeah, that's how I contribute. I make sure.
He is a micromanager.
No, editing these takes some time. I'm just saying. So connect with us. Let us know what you think. If you have any suggestions about what we could do better, some things that we could change, any of that, let us know there.
DM us. Slide into our DMs.
I hate that phrase. It's such a. I hate it so much. Don't slide into anything. I don't want you to slide into anything. Just put it out there. Love you all out there. Stay safe. It's crazy right now. And we'll see you next week for our last episode of this cycle. I'm really excited about it.